This is the Real AI and Digital Transformation podcast series, empowering technology and business professionals to succeed with AI and digital transformation. Now, here's your host, best-selling author Thomas Earl.
Hi, this is Thomas Earl, and welcome to another episode of the Real AI and Digital Transformation podcast series. Today I have with me Gijs in Veld, the strategy consultant at Conclusion Intelligence and author of the newly released book, Leading the Customer-First Hybrid Enterprise. Welcome, Gijs.
Thanks, Thomas. Excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
This book looks extremely interesting. You mentioned it's taken a year of your time to put it together. It's a book focused on leadership strategies in the era of AI. Tell us more about what the book encompasses and some of the primary messages behind what you've put together.
Yeah, sure. So basically what the book is about is it starts off with that most companies right now are actually letting technology reshape the enterprise by accident. And what I mean by that is that you see that AI is being used, tried out in departments, some deliberate, using pilots or POCs, and some by means of shadow IT, people just using AI to make their life easier, their work life easier. And you see that happen a lot at lots of companies I'm involved with, and you read about it a lot. Also, pilots failing because it, in the end, it didn't bring what they wanted it to bring, or they couldn't get it to scale, they couldn't get it to govern. And this book is basically about deliberately changing your operating model and making people and AI work together, governed, working towards optimizing customer processes. And do that in a governed way, do that in a deliberate way. And the main message in the book is that the CEO is basically the orchestrator of all this. Because until now, in previous technology waves, like, for example, ERP or the digital transformation phase we had with cloud and mobile, the CEO could always, be one step away from what actually happened. It usually was about, digitizing records, making CRM more useful, building portals and apps. But it was all basically about technology. And of course, at least, the last phase, the digital transformation phase with cloud and mobile apps, helped bring information to the customer, made life a little bit easier for the customer. But at the same time, we also saw, and I think you probably also recognize that in your daily practice, that companies are actually pushing more tasks toward the customer. So what I'm talking about in the book is that we need a customer process orchestrator, somebody who's end-to-end responsible for customer process and can handle trade-offs between departments, like legal, marketing, sales, operations. And he is responsible for making those trade-offs to make sure that whatever we build actually adds to the customer value, making the customer's life easier, making sure that the right information at the right time in the right context is available for the customer, so his life becomes easier, and his work of doing business with you as a company becomes easier. So that's basically what the book is about, and it is about 7 capabilities in which you can mature. It's about strategic AI fluency. It's about hybrid work between people and AI. It's about built-in governance. It's about adaptive execution. So as a management team or as a leadership team, actually being able to also move as fast as that software solutions are being built, and also make faster decisions in that area. So that's what the book is about. It's not about technology. It's about improving your operating model and make sure that whatever you do brings the most customer value.
When you talk about that orchestration responsibility, which now involves orchestrating human workers as well as agents, AI, contributors as part of overall operations, workflows, processes from the business to the customer. How is that responsibility being carried out now? Who ends up being the person or the group? Is there a group or a department now being dedicated to that perhaps didn't exist before? In these types of new hybrid environments, how do you see this actually taking shape in real life?
I see this as a subject that is a very important subject that should be discussed by the leadership team, so by the top team. So instead of talking about finance, talking about operations, talk about marketing, talk about end-to-end value delivery to the customer. Because when I look at the AI, and that's what I started realizing about a year ago with all the improvements in, for example, generative AI, it's actually performing knowledge work in your company. So it can analyze, it can make decisions, it can automate tasks if you want to. And it is becoming more and more important. So things like that, for example, an AI agent that automatically performs tasks or semi-automatically performs tasks needs to be governed. It has to have guardrails. It has to have KPIs, which it has to, adhere to. Which means that AI, I think it's a real paradigm shift when it comes to really adding value to the customer. Instead of having different departments within your company communicating with your customers, and the customer ending up being the integrator, having to restate this information again and again, talking to different people. AI can really bring a difference, I think. And that's why, this is a top team discussion level thing that's happening. And in order to really improve your operating model end to end, which includes governance, it includes how people in AI should work together. It includes, for example, how you have recovery path in your AI solutions, how you can stop it, how you can have a human in the loop that actually provides value instead of just clicking on OK or not OK, helping improve the solution. That's what's changing. And to realize that, it is really a top team discussion that you should have within your team.
When you talk about top team, so you mentioned the CEO before, and that's the top level leadership, but and how the CEO now needs to be a greater part of defining the orchestration of all this. But when you talk about the top team, what is that team comprised of? Is that a business-centric or technology-centric team, or a combination of both? Or is that still an executive-level leadership team?
Exactly, the latter. So it's just the executive leadership team. And I think what is important, that when you talk about bringing customer value, so talking about customer processes instead of business processes, it is important that each customer process actually has a owner. And that owner should have a certain mandate to handle those different trade-offs. Because if, for example, the CIO and the CFO and the chief legal and people like that, they all have their say And probably they all are right. But if you want to really deliver customer value using AI and people, so that whole hybrid situation, then that customer process owner should be able to make those trade-offs. And if they can't agree on that, escalate it to the CEO, who actually can make the decision at that point.
And then comes the question of, to what extent should AI be part of those individual processes based on how they existed traditionally and how they are now being more automated by potentially autonomous agents, robots with physical AI systems embedded within them, also capable of performing tasks autonomously. Whatever the case, whether it's digital agents or physical agents, the extent to which they become now part of the whole process, what have you seen in terms of making that determination? Is it basically, each business process is its own unique case that has to be evaluated independently to determine how much AI automation we can incorporate? Or are there certain baselines where, you have to incorporate it at least to this extent for it to be meaningful? And then on the other hand, as much as it might look like it makes sense to incorporate it to this extreme based on its maturity or based on how different the process will become based on how it was before and what customers may be accustomed to over the past years, and you may not want to change it too drastically. Are there certain limits to how much you should incorporate it? I'm just curious, based on your research for this book, what you've seen in those two extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm talking about in the book is what I call an agent role canvas. So whenever you decide to start using AI at certain points in your end-to-end process, you should think about, for example, an AI agent as a role, not as a tool. And that role has an owner. He's part of an end-to-end process. It has certain rights to get information about where he is in the process, what information he needs to fulfill his task. A thing like, for example, semantic knowledge is important there. Actually have a good understanding of what the business is all about, and have the right information at hand so that you can make better decisions. So an AI model can be very good, but with bad information or information he doesn't understand, the output is still not good enough. So that's an important piece. But in the end, it's really case specific, how far you want to let it go. For example, when I talk about your enterprise being reshaped by accident, I talk about, for example, people using AI tools, which basically in some cases are shadow AI, as I call it. They start using tools, or they start using tools that are approved, but there is no good enough governance, that suddenly your tone of voice towards your customers start to become standardized without emotion. While the promise you have as a company, the promise to your customer is, we want to personalize our communication with you. So that's what it's all about. It's making those choices for each AI use in an end-to-end process, what guardrails it should have, how autonomous it should be, and how you govern it. Because as we all know, of course, AI is probabilistic. And I always say to my customers, AI, it's not a project, it's a capability, which means that your AI models should also be monitored. We all probably heard of the concept model drift. where the output of AI models is becoming worse and worse over time. So that's part of your governance model. And that's one of the tools that I provide in the book. It's about the agent role canvas, which takes into consideration these kind of aspects of using AI in your processes.
All right. That all sounds like extremely valuable information for business leaders today. We've talked about a lot of the key considerations. Before we conclude, perhaps you could just point out some of the more common pitfalls or risks that that organizations face, that leaders face when making these decisions, and what advice you would give CEOs and leaders today who are looking at adopting AI or further incorporating agentic AI in particular into their business processes.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I mentioned in the book is about, you probably know the book by Geoffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm. I call it Crossing the Enterprise Chasm. Because we all have early adopters in our organizations that are, happy experimenting with AI, see the results, are very enthusiastic. But, to cross that chasm to the early majority, AI has to be governed. It has to be trusted. It has to be providing business value. So the early majority will not start using the solutions you build if those things have not been handled correctly. So that's one of the pitfalls that you can run into in your company. The second one important thing is we all see that around us, also at customers that I am involved with, they're doing many pilots at the same time. And as Geoffrey Moore, a wise man, also said, choose a beachhead process, which is low risk, potentially high value, can be well governed, things like that. Pick that process and start adding AI in that process with, of course, always in mind providing that extra value to your customers. So those are, I think, two very important things that you have to know. And there are more like tips like this, of course, in the book, and pitfalls that you can run into. But those are two very important ones.
Super. Thank you so much, guys. In terms of what you do at Conclusion Intelligence, and also, the status of the book now, please give us a status update as to where you're at right now.
Yeah, so my whole career, I was usually in technical leadership roles. Like I had 2 CTO positions, also as a co-founder of a software company in B2B integration, and also in consultancy in cloud and AI, basically. And at Conclusion Intelligence, I'm involved as a strategy consultant. And that's an interesting area to be in right now, because it comes to 2 things. First of all, helping customers, of course, with their data and AI strategy. I'm involved at a big airline right now, helping them with optimizing the whole catering process, for example, using AI. Interesting playground. Also gave some insights for the book, of course. But also, the IT services and consultancy business itself is, of course, changing very rapidly at the moment. And so I also help the company, Conclusion Intelligence, with their renewed vision, strategy internally. Because what we see, of course, that more and more things can be automated using AI. So in the engineering, architecture, even business consultancy that we do. So what do you do then? So you can speed up the delivery, but it also means that you can actually improve the learning path for the consultants to become more customer intimate, really have value add besides the engineering work that you do. So those are very interesting things to be involved with right now, and I love it.
Super. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today, and let's catch up maybe next year and see how things may have changed or have evolved since then.
We'll sure do, Thomas. Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening. Follow Thomas on LinkedIn.